Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we normally talk about our favorite things in the world: movies, movie news, streaming, TV, all sorts of storytelling. And I am joined today by the one and the only, the great Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing today, sir?
John, a great day, comrades. We sail into history. A little Hunt for Red October for you.
I was going to say, there's a little Sean Connery in there. I love it.
Every day is a Sean Connery day in this household.
Well, listen, guys, we are, of course, heading into Thanksgiving tomorrow, and I hope you guys have for those of you who live in the U.S., I hope you guys have a fabulous day planned. And so we thought we would take today, there's not a lot of news traditionally going into these days, heading into the holidays. And we thought we would take today because, Rob, we've been talking a lot about this movie I've been making, the movie Trailers Love Story. And as we've been going, we continually get a lot of questions, and I know you do on your show as well, and I've been getting them here about, and I did my thoughts on walks a little while ago on telling people I think everybody should just make their own movie. I think if you're a film fan, you should make your own movie. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be grand. You should get involved, even if it's a short 5-minute thing. You should get involved in storytelling because it does a couple of things. It's just fun. There's a great sense of pride you take in it when it's done. It gives you a greater appreciation for this thing you love so much, movies. When you actually try doing it, Rob, it just increases your appreciation for the art itself. And there's so many good things about it. And so, you and I talked, and we thought today would be a good day to, kind of field that topic and talk to, as movie fans, about how it doesn't matter how unlikely you think it is, how you can make your own short film, your own movie, your own video, whatever, and kind of do that in the context and talk about our experiences in making, because Rob was a great help to me getting movie Trailers, a love story all done and all that kind of stuff. And we thought we would take that day today to do that. Now, but before we get into that, a little bit of an announcement to make. So you guys know that the movie, our documentary, Movie Trailers, a Love Story, is set to go live tomorrow. That's Thursday the 26th. Well, guess what? It is not going to be Thursday the 26th. Movie Trailers, a Love Story is available now. Movie Trailers, a Love Story is actually available now. You can find it if you live in the US or in the UK or one or two other territories as well. You can go and get it on Amazon Video. You can go and rent it there. It is there. There's the screenshot of Amazon right now. Rob, I had to pinch.
Boy.
Yeah, there's Cliff on there. I had to pinch myself a little bit, Rob, when I sat there seeing it's like, holy crap, my little project's up on Amazon right now. I just thought that was a really cool thing. So it is available on Amazon right now. Also, if you don't live in the US or the UK, or even if you do live in the US or UK, worldwide, it is also available on Vimeo On Demand. Now, you can go and get the movie right now. You can simply go to vimeo.com/on-demand/movie trailers. That's vimeo.com/on-demand/movie trailers. They are, once again, Movie Trailers, a Love Story is available now. I hope you guys will go and check it out. Again, worldwide available at Vimeo On Demand/movie trailers. And of course, if you're in the US or the UK, it is available on Amazon Video as well. You can rent or buy the film there. And Rob, it's something, it's hard to put into words. You work on something for a year, and then you kind of put it out there for everybody else to see. And it's just that kind of a day. And you've had that experience many times yourself. But listen, a special thank you to all of you guys who have encouraged us and supported us as We've gone through the process of making this little documentary project on movie trailers this past year. A special thank you to our Patreon supporters. We gave early access to the movie to our Patreon supporters, and thank you. I've read all the comments you guys sent me and all the feedback. Thank you so much for all of that. And I hope you guys will go and check out Movie Trailers, A Love Story, and I hope you find it interesting, and I hope you find that you learn something, a couple of things, and I hope you will encourage your friends and family and everybody you know to go and rent it, because, you know, I want to make another one. So there's all that too. Anyway, Rob, it's been an adventure getting in a movie, being film fans and making a movie. It's been an adventure, and that's kind of what you and I are going to focus on today. I'm just curious, Rob, what was the first kind of major thing you worked on, and what was that experience like when that thing kind of came out, whether it was a personal project or whatever? Like, what was that experience like for you?
The first thing that I worked on professionally was Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3.
Awesome.
And I came out of film school, and in LA, it was crazy. I was 22 years old, and I got this job as the art department production assistant. So basically what you do is you're a gopher. You're there to be abused by whoever needs to abuse you and do whatever. You're usually the lowest of the low, but I was the art department production assistant. So my job was actually fascinating. I got to build props. I got to go buy things for the set, and I had a certain amount of creative freedom. Like they'd give me a list and hand me $10,000 and be like, don't come back until everything is on this list. And they didn't want me to call them and ask them every time. They gave me a certain amount of leeway. And I have to tell you, John, the first thing that they asked me to go buy, it was a test. They asked me to go buy "Don't Mess with Texas" bumper stickers. Well, we're in California, so I had to figure out like what to do. And this is pre-Google, pre-everything. I mean, I couldn't you don't want to say, well, where do you go and buy these things? You have to figure this stuff out for yourself. And I thought to myself, maybe a truck stop. So I found the biggest truck stop that was close to Valencia. I went out there, and they had, lo and behold, not just one, but like 4 different kinds of "Don't Mess with Texas" bumper stickers. And I bought them all. And when I came back that day, they said, okay, kid, you can come back tomorrow. And you know, the problem with Leatherface is that whenever you work on a movie, as you well know, it's the best movie ever made.
Oh, yeah.
Every day
you're working on it, you're mentally preparing your Oscar speech.
Yep, every day. And you know, I was working 6 days a week, 20-hour days. It's the greatest job I ever had. And then, of course, the movie it had to be reshot. It got rated X a number of times, which it couldn't. And then, you know, we waited and waited until it finally came out. And it came out, and it tanked. It made no money. But we went to the first show. I guess they had a cast and crew screening. It was a Chinese theater on Hollywood Boulevard. And that was, I mean, sitting in that theater with the cast and the crew. I mean, Viggo Mortensen was in it. And it was just, it didn't matter. It was sheer magic, because you weren't watching the movie. You were watching all the memories of making the movie go by your eyes, because you were there when every one of these things was shot. All you do is remember the stories of what it took to get that shot. So it didn't matter if the movie was good or bad. It just mattered that there was my name on the end of the screen in the end crawl. And I'm like, wow. Like I was ready to pack up my bags and go home. I'm like, I did it, man. I achieved my dream.
That's awesome. And listen, so we're not sitting here today and talking about saying that, everybody can be work on these big Hollywood movies and stuff like that. We're not saying that at all, but the fun, the personal satisfaction, the appreciation of appreciating the art even more. I think that's something for every film fan. And Rob and I today want to talk about about that. And we're going to frame it all within the context of what we did and the processes I went through to get Movie Trailers, A Love Story. By the way, I want to point something out here, because I noticed James is in the live chat board. James, also known as the box office artist, the great box office artist who designed this poster for me. And that is actually James's hand. That is the box office artist, James's hand. By the way, if you have not seen the box office artist's YouTube channel, you really should. He's an incredible artist and is incredibly fun to watch. And he was kind enough to make my poster for me. And that's he's also an international hand model. So I just wanted to kind of throw that in there. International hand model. Good Canadian kid, James. So I thank James for that. So anyway, Rob, I'm going to kind of let you steer the ship on this one. And we're just going to talk about our movie, how it relates to everybody else kind of getting their own thing done. So let's get to it.
Well, my first question for you is, whenever an author gets interviewed, invariably they get asked, where do you get your ideas? and I think that the genesis, obviously, of any movie is a filmmaker wanting, especially if it's an independent film and it's generated by the filmmaking team themselves as opposed to somebody being hired to make a movie for somebody else. I'm just curious, like, what was the spark of the idea for you? And it was interesting because you one day started telling me about this, and you've been thinking, and you'd already been thinking about it for a long time. And I mean, it's not like you decided to make some hard-hitting documentary about, some kind of people's troubles overseas somewhere. I mean, you had an idea about something that, well, I thought it was a pretty genius idea. We as film fans think about and wait for every single day, and it's sort of an interesting product of the modern era. So what was it that made you want to make movie trailers a love story?
I think I'm sitting here telling people that I think they should, as film fans, we should be involved in doing something creative because it's fun, it's personally enriching, and I think it increases our love and our appreciation for films. I count myself in that as well. I try to do that. So like a lot of years ago, I made my little sitcom anniversary that taught me so much. Just making that movie taught me so much about movies. It was awesome. And then I did a little documentary before that called Prince of Peace, God of War, where I really didn't know what I was doing, but I was very proud of that. And then I've always tried to stay involved in doing things extracurricularly outside of my regular internet show. So, I did that thing with Lionsgate where I was running, Film HQ for Lionsgate. You were involved in that, Rob. You were on that several times. I was executive producer on that Verizon Go network show that we did with Jeremy Johns called Jeremy Johns Awesome-tacular. I was the executive producer on that. And so it's been a while since I had done an outside project like that. And I had started to think, probably at the beginning of 2019, I was starting to think about, I need a project to keep, to keep that creativity going. And I started to think about the idea of a documentary. And I think it was one day on the John Campea Show, you and I were talking about a new trailer dropping. And it just struck me as funny that, because I'd always been thinking about topics that I could do as a documentary. And we talked about this one trailer that dropped and everybody was freaking out. And it just got me thinking. It's like, we all freak out about movie trailers, but we never talk about the art of movie trailers. We talk about trailers every day when new trailers drop, but we don't talk about the art of movie trailers. And so I've told this story before. Whenever I'm about to get involved in something, the first thing I do is I go to Amazon and I look up books. And if you go to Amazon, I've told this before, but if you go to Amazon and look up books on making wood chairs, you're going to find 500 books. And I went to go look up books about movie trailers. There were two books on Amazon about movie trailers. And I remember thinking to myself, nobody talks about this. And I think it was that moment when I saw two books on my Amazon search result about movie trailers. I think that was the moment. And that was probably June. I'm going to guess that was probably somewhere around June of 2019. And then I percolated on that for a bit. And then it was probably in August or September that I finally decided to talk to some people about it. I talked to you about it. And then we were in full-fledged pre-production by November. But that was it. It's like, as a film fan, I love films. I realize that as film fans, we're always talking about movie trailers. We talk about movie trailers as much as we talk about the movies themselves.
Yeah.
And I just thought, we never do stuff like this. And I looked around and there was nothing like this out there. So I thought, you know what? let's go and do a thing about movie trailers. So that was the genesis of all that.
Okay, so now I have to ask you, obviously, you never ask this question at film festivals because you get booed by the audience. But obviously, movies are not any movie. It's not cheap. You need equipment, you need personnel, you need lights, you need sound equipment. I mean, really, one of the cornerstones of making any movie is to make it feel professional. Nowadays, especially when we can all buy professional microphones and decent cameras, you got to make things look good. So you need a budget. You know, you already had a lot of your own equipment, which was good. You had a fact checker, Jonathan, who was a good shooter. You had Ray to help work with you. But did you decide on a budget and a time frame, a budget and a schedule because obviously, you know, you can't just throw an infinite amount of money at a movie. Right. So did you have a number in your mind that you were going to spend and a certain fixed schedule with which you were going to make this movie within a time frame?
As far as schedule, and you and I have never talked about this. As far as schedules go, I had this delusion of grandeur in my head that because, you know, I have a very good relationship with Comic-Con. You know, I do my annual panel there and stuff like that. Yeah. I had this delusion of grandeur that I was going to do a first cut screening of it in July of 2019 or July of 2020 at San Diego Comic-Con.
But I think though, and for any filmmakers out there, I think it's really important to have those, even if you can't make them, to have that kind of a date in mind, because otherwise the project never gets finished. You've got to give yourself deadlines that you work within. Until
you set deadlines, it remains a theoretical. When you set deadlines, it becomes real. Otherwise, it's just something. You know what? When you have a deadline, it's a project. When you don't have a deadline, it's a hobby. And hobbies come and go, right? And so when you have set a deadline, so I had it in my head that I was targeting I knew I couldn't have a fully finished thing, but I thought first cut, I'll have something to screen. We'll do a special screening of it at Comic-Con. Well, obviously 2020 had other plans. We had a pandemic which slowed down our production as well. It slowed down everything. And obviously there was no Comic-Con, so there was that. And that was fine. That was okay. So then my next target said, I wanted it to be done out before the end of the year. I want to have it out and available before the end of the year. As far as budgets go, I really didn't have a budget in mind because I was just thinking, look, I've already got some stuff. I've got fact checker Jonathan Voico, who's great, and Ray working with me. And I hired a research assistant. The one thing I kind of budgeted for extracurricular was I hired a research and production assistant. You met her, Juliette Sereau, and she was great. Actually, I'll bring up a picture. Juliette was great. Like, she's a producer and all that kind of stuff. And I was looking for somebody to come work with me. And I put out this post in these forums. And Juliette came in with all this production experience. She was great. This is actually Juliette sitting in to do the picture framing. This is the day we interviewed Mike Davis.
Yeah, that was the director of Shoot 'Em Up.
Yeah, the director of Shoot 'Em Up. We went to the director of Shoot 'Em Up, Michael Davis's house, and as we were setting up the shot, we had Juliette sitting. But she was she did a lot of the research for us, so she was like the one thing we kind of budgeted for. But as far as gear, the reality is,
it all. You know,
I had a bunch. Like, I had the cameras I used to make this. This is going to sound funny because I thought about buying some bigger, more expensive cameras. And I talked to an industry professional that we know and who just shoots for Hollywood for a living. And I told him the cameras I already had, and he said, dude, those will do great for you. And those cameras, to give everybody an idea, the camera that I'm shooting this on right now is called a Sony a6400. And I bought like a $300 Sigma 30 millimeter prime lens. I also have a Sigma 50 millimeter prime lens and a Sigma 15 millimeter prime lens. But anyway, I bought some prime lenses. But like, you don't need a $6,000 camera. If you can do that, great. These cameras are $900, which is not cheap, but I mean, comparatively. And I thought we got an awesome look in the film. using these cameras. So, the expense was not much. For audio, we could have run the audio straight into the thing, but I also have this device called the Zoom H6 that I already owned.
Right.
This thing you can get used on eBay for $200. It's an external audio recorder. You can plug up to 4 mics into it at once, and you record a nice clean audio separately. And like I said, you can get that for like $200. You don't need a $3,000 audio rig if you want to do something. And you don't even have to do, like I said, I could have plugged directly into the camera, and you could do this too. But I happen to have this. And so this you can get brand new for like $300. You can get this thing used for like $200. And then to record into that, I got this Rode NTG4 microphone that was fantastic. I bought it brand new for about $375.
Mm-hmm.
But you can get it on eBay for like $175 today. And this mic is amazing. This mic is great. And we recorded literally all the audio for the movie, re-recorded on this, this mic going into this thing. All the video was shot on this camera. Well, I have 4 of these cameras, so we had multiples, but still, it was all shot on this camera. And so really, if you sit down and look at it, the basic main stuff that I needed to make this movie, I probably spent, and if you include the value of the things I already owned, I probably spent $3,000.
Right.
Just on the gear. Now, my time is worth money. Your time is worth money. My crew's time is worth money. But it's just talking about the stuff that you have. And then what we did for locations, we went to a number of the subjects that we interviewed. We went to a number of their houses. And for those that we couldn't, I rented a little studio here in Burbank. Now, you think renting studio time is like $1,000 an hour and stuff like that. We rented this little studio. This is actually me talking to Hitman and Johnny Quest producer Adrian Iscaria. We rented this little studio space, $60 an hour. $60 an hour. We at most needed 2 hours to do an interview. So we would plan to do like 2 interviews a day. So I'd rent it for like 3 hours and we could bang out 2 interviews in 3 hours. And so altogether, I maybe spent about $1,000.
I think what's really cool about your picture here as well is it shows you were getting 2 shots of each interview subject.
Yeah, you can see there's 2 cameras there. There are 2 cameras.
I think stylistically, what I like about your film is the combination of using prime lenses, which means you're dealing with fixed focal lengths, so you're not using zooms. There is a look that comes along with prime lenses that you don't get with a zoom lens, and the fact that you chose to shoot with primes immediately gave your film, let's call it a style, with your interview subjects, which I think is important. And it's a subtle thing, but it's also an important thing. And I think that, even a documentary like yours that is definitely homegrown, you do have a style to the way it was shot. And I think that's important as well, because it's part of the art of the movie that you're making. And, you were thinking about you might not have been sitting down going, I'm going to make the most stylish documentary in the world, but your choices led to the overall aesthetic of the film, which I think is also something that needs to be considered.
Yeah. And by the way, you might see on top of the camera, there's that one monitor. I'm going to bring up this picture of Juliet again. Now, this is not something you have to do if you want to make this, but what we did was I knew I couldn't afford, because like when you get Michael Davis, the director of Shoot 'Em Up, I can't expect that if something goes wrong, I can just, hey, Mike, can I come to your house again tomorrow? So what we did is we had redundancies. So we were recording on the camera, the video on the camera, but this thing here is called an Atomos Ninja, and it acts as an external monitor, but it also takes SD hard drives, and it actually records on there as well. So just to be safe, we recorded on the camera and we recorded on the Atomos Ninja, just so we always had a fail safe. In case something went wrong with one of the files, we had the other thing as a backup. And these things are great. And these things are actually, for what they do, these Atomoses, these are fantastic. Like they're about $400. They also go up to as high as like $2,000. But I got this one for like $400 and it was a godsend. Because not only was it a big monitor that would sit up on top of the camera, way bigger than the camera's monitor, but it was also its own external 4K recorder and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to splurge a little bit more, but listen, here's the thing though, Rob, like I've told this story before. I went to, because Quentin Tarantino recommended it, I took the 2-day film class with Dove S.S. Simmons a number of years ago. And he said something that I think is so simple, but it totally was profound to me. He said, everybody asks me, he's one of these guys, like he's older, he's got the gray beard, he's wearing the ascot, you know. Everybody always asks me, how do you make a movie? I'll tell you how to make a movie, he says. Get a camera, point it at a couple of friends, hit record and say action. An hour and a half later, stop recording and say cut. You've made a movie. As ridiculous as that sounds, that in its core, I think that what we as film fans do, Rob, is when we think about making our own projects and we think about making our own fun short films or our own film projects or whatever, I think we get overwhelmed by the highest advanced level artists doing the art, right?
Right.
And we forget that, no. At the bottom line, you want to make a movie? Get your iPhone, point it at a couple of friends, hit record, and then stop recording and say cut. And you've made a movie. And what I'm hoping that showing all this stuff to you guys, whether it's an Atomos or a Zoom recorder or you know where I shoot or the cameras I shoot, I'm hoping that by showing you guys this stuff, it is demystifying a little bit the concept or the idea that making something is this impossible thing that is well beyond your reach. It's not. I spent a couple of grand, maybe altogether when it was all said and done, you know, I'm paying my staff and all that kind, which I was paying anyway to work on the John Campea Show. But I mean, maybe when it was all said and done, maybe I paid 10 grand, you know, when it was all said and done. And that includes having to pay lawyer fees and things like that. But I didn't have to do that either. Like, you can do it. If you've got, you know, you can get $50 lights off of Amazon. And that's the one thing I didn't talk about here today is lights. I spent a little bit of money on some decent lights that are actually here in my studio right now. But I mean, you can get $50 lights on Amazon. You can use your phone for heaven's sakes if you wanted to. And, you know, everybody's got video editing software of one degree or another on their computers. Don't let this idea, this daunting idea of making a project, of making something, whether it's fun or whether it's for something to see, I want to see if I'm any good at this, or I want to see if this is something I should pursue as a dream, or if it's just like I did the first time I did it, just for fun, just to enjoy my film fandom even more. You can do it. And I hope that our journey in making movie trailers a love story and the gear we used and the budget we had, I hope that inspires you, that says, hey, listen, if this fucking nobody on YouTube Canadian dude can do this, I can do it. And you can. It doesn't mean it's going to be great. It doesn't have to be great. I just think more people should do it, which is why, Rob, you've got your film festival going on right now.
Yeah, you know, it was very funny. Some people, Patrick Keller and Dieter Bastian over in Germany, just one day, they're viewers of my show. They made a movie, and it wasn't just like a movie. They thought about it. It has a plot, and they even made a sequel. And I figured, you know, if they're going to make a movie, I decided, you know what? I called it the first Intergalactic Imagination Connoisseurs Film Festival. And I just threw it open to everybody. This was like 2 months ago. And I said, let's have a film festival. And I've been getting, I just got a second entry from these filmmakers from Ireland yesterday called Bedbug. They made another movie called Crawl Space. So I've been getting movies from all over the world. And the entry, if you send in your entry form by December 1st, you actually have till December 15th to finish your movie. And there's some movies that people made in a weekend or in a day. And I've always thought, John, that if you want to make movies, and a lot of people wonder, like, where can we begin? Pick something easy. Like if you have a pet, like make a movie. It's the most rudimentary thing in the world, but a day in the life of my pet. And just take your camera and shoot your pet for the day. Like in the morning, in the afternoon, at feeding time, at night, maybe when they're sleeping. And even if you end up with 10 different shots in your camera, you take those 10 shots, you cut them together however you want, throw some music underneath it, and suddenly you now have a narrative about a day in the life of your pet. And it's something that's right in front of you. And it'll teach you, because once you start looking at your own work and you're like, I don't like that shot. I wish this shot was better. I wish I shot it from more of a low angle, because we've all watched movies. So we all have sort of an innate understanding of what things are supposed to look like on screen. And when we see things that are off, even when it's our own work, you still think to yourself, I could do better. And then you go, you should maybe do a reshoot the next day. And then, after working on a weekend and finding some music and putting it together, you might have a 2 or 3 minute little fun narrative about your pet. And when you show that to somebody else, whether it's a parent, whether it's a significant other, whether it's a kid, everybody is going to have a reaction to a movie about your pet. They'll be like, oh, or they'll laugh, and you'll get immediate feedback. You'll get feedback about something that came out of you. And that is very intoxicating.
Yep. And it's inspiring, and it gets you going. So yeah, guys, listen, I really want to encourage you. Rob and I are both very, very adamant that we believe film fans, even if, again, you don't have to do anything big. Just if you're a hardcore film fan, I love that idea of a day in the life of your pet. I love that idea. Just because you will find when it's all said and done, wow, then you'll look at a movie. Next time you watch a movie, you'll have a deeper appreciation for how they make that magic on screen. And it'll just make you an even bigger film fan. And that's why we encourage everybody to do that. So guys, hey, listen, once again, we're announcing today the launch of Movie Trailers, A Love Story. It is available now worldwide at vimeo.com/on-demand/movie trailers. And if you're in the US or the UK, if you don't want to use Vimeo on demand, you can use Amazon. It is also available there right now. It is launched. It is live. You can go and see it today. Go and do that. And I hope you guys enjoy it and find it interesting. Okay, guys, listen, we've still got some time today heading into Thanksgiving tomorrow, so we are going to take your live comments and questions for the remainder of the show. If you guys have a live comment or question that you'd like to fire in, simply use the tip link that's in the top of the description of this video. You can click on it there or enter it manually. streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You'll be getting your comment or question on the show, and of course, you'll be supporting the show at the same time. So let's get over to it. We're going to start things off with here an anonymous viewer who writes, over under 1%. Chadwick Boseman shot his scenes for Black Panther 2, and Marvel is waiting for a moment to confirm that Chadwick Boseman is in fact T'Challa for one last film. Zero. The film hadn't even been written by the time, sadly and unfortunately, by the time Chadwick departed. So you never want to say zero, but this is one of those situations. I mean, there are few things that can happen in the world that would make the entire planet celebrate. That would be one of them. But no, it didn't happen, unfortunately. It's very sad. I love the way you're dreaming, though, Anonymous. All right, next up. Obi-Wan Smokey writes, who would win in a fight, Baby Grinch or Baby Yoda? I like that one. Listen. Baby Yoda's got the force powers, man. So it's going to be Baby Yoda. It's going to be Baby Yoda. All right. Andrew Jones writes, saw your film, John. It was very interesting. Well done. Thank you so much, Andrew. I'm assuming he's one of our Patreon supporters who we gave early access to the film too. So thank you so much for that, Andrew. I appreciate that, man. Thanks for checking it out. All right. Cecil writes, hey, John, I hope you are receiving this after a successful relaunch of your stream today. Of course, yesterday, Rob and I had to relaunch the show because we had an audio issue. And I'm going to let you in behind the curtains a little bit, guys. I hate technical problems. I hate them. I hate them so much. I have a mangled set of headphones still laying over there somewhere. That received the brunt of my frustration one time after technical problems. Oh, I hate them. But no, yesterday's technical problem was actually easily fixed, and Rob was back on and doing the show, no problem after that. But Rob, over the years, Rob, there have been a couple. Actually, you know what? when you consider all the technology, Rob, and all the moving pieces that goes into making a live YouTube stream,
dude, it's insane.
The fact that we've had as few major technical problems over the last 3 years is really kind of impressive. I mean, it's actually pretty good. But you've seen me after we've gone off air a couple times going, why are these technical problems? And they drive me crazy.
Well, I think one of the things that I've admired about how you've handled your YouTube show is you are so your primary concern is the viewer experience. And that's something that I learned. I mean, one of the most informative panels I ever went to at the San Diego Comic-Con, you had me moderate, you know, and I was moderating your panel about how do you do a YouTube show. And this was really before I started Robservations. And right. I learned a lot from you because you've done everything. You've failed. You figured out what works and what doesn't work. And over the years, I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. And it was trial by error, and you've now reached a point where I can ask you just about anything to do with broadcasting on YouTube, and you know about gear, you know about software. I mean, you put me onto Wirecast, and while I'm just kind of like a one-man band, I've still learned. I mean, I like to think that I've constantly trying to improve my own show, but I think your show is actually, and I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass or because I'm on it. Technically, it's one of the great shows on YouTube, especially because you do things like use prime lenses. You know, I look at, a lot of people might not notice, but the way prime lenses work, like even looking at you right now, I want everyone to notice at home, look at the background behind John, how it's out of focus and his face is in focus. And look at the background on my shot right now. My background's in focus, I'm in focus. Which shot is better? Which shot is more interesting? Clearly, John's is, at least in my mind. I mean, everybody feels differently about things. But this is why I think John's show is so great, because from a technical standpoint, there is a style happening on your show, John. And that's something that a lot of people don't necessarily think about. And I think that this is something you have developed over the course of years, whether you're a camera's on a slider or the way you have your light working, you have multiple lights, and how you get your, like you're always telling me about sound software and which microphones sound best and what combination of the 2 or 3 added a mixing board. And I mean, you really go all out, and you are producing a show from many different levels that I think a lot of people don't think about. And I think that's interesting. And it's something worth emulating. Therein is the end of me blowing smoke up your ass.
I think it's also important to note to people that, you know, you don't have to have prime lenses. You don't have to have multiple lights. You can do YouTube. Like for me, it's just been a progression over years where, you know, because Rob, you and I will talk about this off air. The main goal in everything is what gives the best experience to the audience who are honoring us by watching the show.
Right.
Because I feel like I know you have this attitude too. We feel that we are indebted to people who will take time out of their day to watch a piece of our content. Then we owe you the best viewing experience that we can give you. And if getting one microphone will make the audio just a little bit more pleasant for our viewers to listen to, then I want to invest in that. If getting a certain type of light will just make a little bit more of a pleasing image for our viewer who is watching us, then I want to invest in that. And it's like when I feel, the reason I freak out and I have mangled headphones over there when something technically goes wrong.
Yeah, but that was an awesome bit of video.
You say, "Oh, son of a bitch." It's not because, oh, boo-hoo, something went wrong for me. It's I feel humiliated and embarrassed because I have failed the people who choose to tune in to watch me. And because Rob, you know this from all of our conversations, when I feel like I have failed the people who watch this show and fail the people who give of their time to come and be a participant and watch this show, when I feel I let them down, I freak the fuck out. I do. I can't stand that. I can't tolerate that.
Sure.
And it just totally freaks me out. Anyway, sorry, we got sidetracked there a little bit. Let's move on here, shall we? Next one up comes to us from Andrew Nathan, who writes, Hey, John, glad you liked Avatar. I'm assuming we're talking about The Last Airbender. Just wanted to let you know that Tale of Iroh was the voice actor's last recorded episode, and the picture of Iroh's son was inspired by how the voice actor looked when he was younger. I didn't realize that part. Mako also voiced Aku in Samurai Jack. And Mako, of course, was around for a long time and did a lot of things. Rob, I was telling, somebody brought up Mako the other day, and I was saying, look, I know when a lot of people who are younger than me will think of Mako, they'll think of probably him voicing Uncle Iroh in Avatar: The Last Airbender. I don't. I think of the wizard in Conan the Barbarian. That's the narrator, really, too, of Conan. That's what I think of when I think of him.
Time of high adventure.
Yeah, he had that voice. He had that voice, which is so great and adds so much care. When you think of him, though, where does your head first go?
Well, that's dude. You can't not think of that. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Conan the Barbarian. And when it came out, it was like my birthday movie for 1982, and it was, and you love him because he kind of tells the story, of Conan.
Yeah. And
so that's the first thing that pops into my mind.
But the crown laid upon a heavy brow. Oh, he had such a great voice. And he did a lot of animated work too. He did a lot of animated voice acting later on in his career. All right, let's move on here. Next up, we have Min Tran, who writes, new season of Animaniacs. Have you seen it? If so, what are your thoughts? I have not watched it yet, but I am damn sure gonna. I love the Animaniacs. There's Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru, Costa Rica, Bolivia, and Argentina, Greece and El Salvador too. Blah. Anyway, they're Nations of the World song, Lake Titicaca, Pinky and the Brain, The Good Feathers, whatever it is. I love Animaniacs. So I have not checked out. I haven't had time to watch the new one yet, but I will, and I will let you know as soon as I have. You had a chance to check that out yet, Rob?
I have not, but I love the Animaniacs.
I love Animaniacs, man. I cannot wait to watch it. All right, Wilson the Volleyball writes, happy Thanksgiving. Looking forward to having family over and eating lots of turkey, ham, and stuffing. What are your Thanksgiving plans, and how similar, different are Thanksgiving traditions and dishes in Canadian culture compared to Americans? Well, Canada, obviously, we have a different Thanksgiving day. Like our Thanksgiving is earlier. We've already had Thanksgiving, the proper day of Thanksgiving. But here's the funny thing that I noticed, Rob, when I came to the U.S., and Thanksgiving, in Canada, I should say, we like Thanksgiving and we have Thanksgiving. And in many ways, it's very similar. Like traditionally, it's a turkey dinner and blah, 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 or some families do other meals. It's fairly similar. But Thanksgiving in Canada is not actually a big deal. And it was really surprising to me when I came to the States and I realized, like to some people in the US, it's like the most important holiday, like maybe to some even more than Christmas. And in Canada, it's all about Christmas, and Thanksgiving's a nice holiday, but whatever. But here it's really different. Do you have any different traditions? I mean, this year's obviously gonna be a very, very different Thanksgiving. We're not gonna get together with a large group of people. We're just gonna have like me, Anne, her mom, her sister, and her brother, and that's about it. But we're not just gonna. Normally we'll do a big, huge Filipino thing, but not gonna do that this year. We're keeping it smaller. What about you, Rob?
Well, this year, same thing. I mean, Elizabeth's mom and stepdad are going to come over, and we're going to do a very small thing, just the family. But, Thanksgiving to me growing up, I grew up in Seattle, and my dad's sister, my Aunt Barbara, lived in Tacoma on this lake called Gravelly Lake. And we would go every year to their house for Thanksgiving, and her kids were there. And usually there was like 25 or 30 people, and you'd see people sometimes for the only time you saw them that year, and there would be this massive spread, and it would be this day-long event. And I loved it. I love Thanksgiving. I know that perhaps there's going to be politically correct people that talk about, well, this was the beginning of the indigenous people's genocide in the North American continent or whatever. I get that. I understand that. But over time, reclaiming tradition and all that, one of the things I think that Thanksgiving is it's a time, even more so than Christmas, because Christmas is more intimate. Usually you don't have a big spread. It's a family thing. But I think Thanksgiving is really, to me, it's always been the family holiday. It's always been a time where everybody gets together, and it's always been interesting because there's always different groups of people having interesting conversations. And when I was a kid, I'd I'd float around from conversation to conversation and kind of listen to them and try and glean what the adults were talking about. Like, what does all of this mean? And I didn't know, but I found it fascinating. And then, of course, everyone's like, "Oh, what are you into, Bobby?" You know, and then you could talk about yourself, which is fun too. But that's what Thanksgiving was always to me, and I've always loved it.
All right, we move on now. Next up, Ahmed Z writes, Cosmic Wonder, Everything Always, YouTube channels showed us a leaked Disney Plus trailer, showed Black Widow premiere access in mid-April and Disney Plus 18-year-old section. Do you think this is legit or maybe old, given HBO release 84 for free will affect Disney Plus's position? Okay, so Rob, you've probably seen this. There's this leaked trailer going around of a movie screen of an upcoming Disney Plus ad that shows that Black Widow will be released, will be going direct to streaming thing, but in a premiere access that it says Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to come out in August. It says Disney 18 plus. That's where all this has come from. So if you guys remember, I told you guys last week that I have been told by fairly reliable people, although I can't attest to its authenticity for sure. I just can't. I can't. So I don't know. Maybe it's not true, but that Disney on December 10th was going to announce that Black Widow was foregoing its theatrical run and was going to go straight to Disney Plus. So this leaked trailer seems to confirm that. Here's the problem. The problem is these leaked trailers have a 0% batting average of being authentic. Like every time you see one of these leaked, somebody snuck a recording device into the studio editing bay, the studio editing theater where they were showing top executives, and one of the people involved and invited to that snuck in a camera and took a little shot of it. But they've always been fake. Right. They're always fake. They're always fake. Does that mean when another one comes out, that automatically means that one is fake? No, it does not automatically mean that's fake. It doesn't. So I'm going to say this, my personal opinion with no factual knowledge, all right, just personal opinion, is I don't believe in the veracity of that thing. I don't believe it's real. I believe it is fake. And we've seen these fake, it's including Disney Plus announcement videos. Remember, Rob, a few months ago, there was another one of those, this one leaked. It was complete BS. It wasn't real. So I don't believe it's real. I don't believe it is, but there is a difference between what we know and what we believe. What you believe is not the same as what you know. And I don't know that it's fake.
Right.
Here's two things, Rob. I have a difficult time believing three big things. One, I have a difficult time believing that somebody who's in the inner circle enough at Disney that would be sitting in that preview room of executives and bosses and stuff like that would go, I'm going to sneak out my camera and take video of this and uploads it to the interwebs. I have a hard time believing that.
You know why you have a hard time believing that, John?
Why is that?
Because nobody would ever do that. Nobody who has a job that they are in a position where they're going to see something like this needs to record something and send it out onto the internet to feel gratification. Yeah, they're getting paid enough that they don't have to do that.
I have a hard time buying that. Again, does that make it impossible? No, it doesn't make it impossible.
No.
Maybe it was somebody on the janitor staff who happened to be, I'm mopping and they're showing this thing. I'm going to slip out my camera, risk my livelihood and my job so I can put this on the internet. Anyway, but it's possible. It is possible. Thing number two, I find difficult to believe, though not impossible, is that this little leaked trailer suggests that Black Widow will be doing a premium release like they did with Mulan. That it'll release on Disney Plus, but it'll be for $30. It'll be your Disney Plus subscription plus $30 to watch it. They just did that with Mulan, and it turned out to be an utter disaster.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean, but again, Rob, we've talked on the show that Mulan was just a one example sample size. They need a bigger sample size to make any definitive. So maybe, but I have a hard time believing it. The third thing is, the Disney 18 plus. Possible? Absolutely. Absolutely possible. I lean towards being pessimistic about that, though, because there's a reason Disney has invested so much money in Hulu and why they wanted to buy controlling interest in Hulu. I believe that mature content goes to Hulu. Plus, there was something, if you saw this trailer, Rob, there was something from a design point of view, there was an inconsistency where it's Disney and then in big red letters, 18 plus. It's like, that doesn't look like what Disney would put into a design. So look, before everybody runs around and says, Campea debunks that trailer, I will be the first one to tell you there is a possibility it's real. I am skeptical of its authenticity, though, for those three reasons. Rob, you've seen this trailer, and what are your general thoughts on this leaked trailer thing? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, like you, I mean, look, there are always possibilities. I mean, I know that we have ways of making you talk. We have ways of seeing things. There are lots of things that I've seen that I'm not supposed to see, and that people have said, I don't believe you. Like when I read the Duel of the Fates script and reported on it, people are like, that was a fake script. You didn't really read it. Someone wrote it. And I'm like, well, yeah, they did. Colin Trevorrow wrote it. But a lot of the time people think, but there's a lot of things that aren't fake that you never know. You might be in someone's edit bay. You might be someplace that you stumbled into and didn't know. And so there's always a possibility. There's always a possibility that maybe once every 4 years, we've got this covered, has a story that's actually true. But I don't necessarily think that's going to happen anytime soon. The possibility's there, but probably not. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. However, you were talking about Hulu. Hulu is not worldwide, and there's a lot of places that don't have Hulu, whereas Disney Plus is going worldwide. So I think in order to stay competitive, people are going to start asking. I mean, ultimately, it's going to be like, yo, Disney, where are the Alien movies? Where are the Predator movies? Why if you're Disney Plus and you're putting all these movies out, why can't I see The French Connection, or why can't I see other Fox films that are R-rated? And I think they're going to have to do something on a global level to make their purchase of Fox viable. And the idea that Disney is not just a streaming service, it's a brand. It's been a brand since the late 20s, and it's a family brand. So they have to figure out, if Disney Plus is going to do anything with all these R-rated movies, they have to do something that differentiates that from its main brand. So people don't go, well, Disney used to be for kids, but my kids were watching something and now they're swearing up a storm and they want to make gore movies about the alien and the predator. And Disney doesn't want that to happen. So whatever they're going to do is going to be very carefully considered. And I don't think they're just going to roll out Disney Plus 18 or Disney 18 Plus or whatever. I don't necessarily think that's the solution they're going for. I think whatever they do, it's going to be very methodical. It's going to be very thought through, and it's not going to be haphazard. And whatever they're going to come up with, people are going to go, oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Now, let me play devil's advocate for a second. Let me say why you could believe that this thing's real.
Sure.
Number one, I already told you guys, I had been told well in advance that on the December 10th investors meeting, they were going to announce Black Widow foregoing theatrical and going straight to Disney Plus. This leaked ad seems to be consistent with that. So there's one thing. There's one thing. The other thing, saying that Falcon and Winter Soldier isn't going to come out until August. Well, that seems to be consistent with everybody's assumption that Falcon and Winter Soldier, for story purposes, cannot come out before Black Widow. That's been the assumption for a lot of us, Rob, that there is something in Black Widow and something in Falcon and Winter Soldier that requires Falcon and Winter Soldier to come out after Black Widow. It was always planned to come out after Black Widow, so that is a consistency as well. So I think if you're looking for reasons, if you want to believe this thing and you're looking for some reasons to validate your belief in this leak, there's a couple of things. There are a couple of things. So,
well, if I might too play my own devil's advocate,
Sure.
I think that 2020, if you want to end the year, if you're Disney, right, and you're looking at this, you know what kind of losses you already took on Mulan. The MCU of all of the movies, of all of the franchises that have ever existed in Hollywood, they could take a loss. Not that anybody wants to take a loss, but they could take one for the team and it wouldn't hurt the brand. It wouldn't hurt Disney. And Disney can position it. They can say, we're giving you all one. We know your 2020 sucked. We're going to give you one. We're going to have what better Christmas present to open? What can we give you than Black Widow? What's better? What have you been waiting for from us? You haven't seen an MCU movie in over a year, and we're going to give it to you for Christmas. And suddenly, for the press, everybody would be talking about how now you've got Wonder Woman and Black Widow competing for eyeballs. It's not going to be a competition.
Except the thing is, the announcement would come on December 10th. They're saying Black Widow, according to this leak, Black Widow itself wouldn't actually debut until May. So the announcement would come December 1st, but it would come out on Disney Plus in May.
Yeah, see, that doesn't make sense to me, though. Like, why announce it 6 months in advance? They can announce it 3 months in advance. I think if they're going to do it, like Warner Brothers just announced it, and a month later, little over a month later, kabam. I think Disney Plus they've had a long time to plan this. They already gave it a trial run with Mulan. I think if they come out and announce this, hey, look, maybe they'll do it in May. That, to me, it's like they don't have to make that announcement in December, because why do that before the end of the year? Because the end of the year, everyone's going to be talking about looking back at the year that was. I think if you're going to make an announcement, wait until the new year. Making an announcement about Black Widow coming out in May in this December, things are going to get lost in the holiday. There's no reason to make that kind of announcement on December 10th. Maybe they would, but I would, if I was going to do it, man, I'd announce it on December 10th and put that shit out for Christmas, yo. And that would be huge. It would be huge. And don't make it $30, make it $20 or $15 or whatever. And who wouldn't watch Black Widow? I think it would be the first time there would be a windfall. It might be the most successful pay-per-view movie event ever, because Wonder Woman's coming out for free. But Black Widow, I mean, I don't know. But we'll see. Again, I'm just playing my own devil's advocate. We're just spitballing here. Maybe they will announce it for May.
Yep. Again, I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical about its veracity, but there are possibilities there could be real. But generally speaking, I don't believe it. But we'll see. We will see. All right. Spent a lot of time on that, but that was a big topic. All right. Next up, let's see. The Black Knight writes, caught last bit Garfield Spidey last night. I still think he's the best one. I feel like we missed out on more from him as Peter Parker after killing Gwen. I think I really wonder how they would have followed that up. A love interest chemistry with Emma Stone was 10. Hey, listen, I'll tell you what. I do not like romantic relationships in my comic book movies. There are very few exceptions. The two big, well, I'll say three. The three big exceptions are Tony and Pepper. Love that relationship. Love that chemistry. Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds and Lauren Baccarin. And the other one is Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone. Peter and Gwen. That was a terrific chemistry. Like every moment, even in the not so great Amazing Spider-Man 2, whenever it was Peter and Gwen on screen together, that movie was firing on all cylinders. That movie was working. And I thought Gwen's death in it was powerful and impactful. And they had already casted Mary Jane and they were getting ready to move forward, but things happened and they changed it. That's a big debate, Rob, about who is the best Peter Parker. That's still a debate that goes on. We've got Tobey's, we got Andrew's, we've got Tom Holland's. I love all of them. They're all very unique and different. But I got to tell you, I love Andrew Garfield's iteration. Rob, I don't know if you ever saw this, but before Andrew Garfield's first Spider-Man movie came out, he surprised the audience at Comic-Con. He went up to the mic to ask a question at a panel, and he was wearing a Spider-Man mask, and he took it off, and it's Andrew. And he gave this speech about what Spider-Man means to him. And I'm getting goosebumps remembering this speech, because if you're a fan of movies and comic book movies, like, it touched your soul the way he talked about being a fan and what it meant to him to play Spider-Man, all that kind of stuff. It was great. I loved Andrew Garfield's iteration of Spider-Man. I don't know. What did you think about Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man?
No, I liked Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, but to me, both Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield did seem a little old to be in high school. I did like their I did like their portrayals, but in terms of being age appropriate, and I know Tom Holland is older than he looks, but he had more of a wide-eyed. Both Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire they also seemed wise beyond their years, and Tom Holland kind of brought this wide-eyed and bushy-tailed eagerness to his performance that made it seem more like the Peter Parker I would have imagined reading the comics. The only problem is that was offset by his relationship with Tony Stark to me. Whereas I love the opening of Raimi's Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, the first half an hour when he's figuring out his powers and all that. I mean, that to me was peak Spider-Man. Some of my favorite superhero moments in any superhero movie is Tobey Maguire looking at discovering his powers. I love that. I loved his portrayal, and it was great. But Andrew Garfield brought Tobey Maguire is a little ethereal, but I think Garfield had a groundedness to his performance that I really liked, and then Tom Holland felt more like a high school student. So all three of those actors, I think, brought something different to Peter Parker that I appreciated. Yeah, I just think that Tom Holland was more like the character I knew from the comics, but his relationship with Tony Stark sort of skewed that. So he was Spider-Man that always had somebody to lean on. And what I liked about Spider-Man is there was really nobody for him to lean on. He had to lean on himself. That's why he was working as a photographer and running around, and so they're all different.
Yeah, they all have their own strengths. They really do, and I think they're all great. All right, let's move on here. Next up, Chris writes, "Hey, John, I love all you do." Thank you so much for that, Chris. What is one of the reasons you think superheroes like Batman have been able to last for such a long time? I've always thought that one reason why is, despite all odds, his self-determination in spite of his loss help him cope. Well, I think, here's the thing, Chris. I think you'll find a lot of comic book superheroes will give their characters that trait. Rob, I don't know what you think about this, but when I think about the pure longevity of the Batman character, one of the things that really comes to mind for me is, and some people don't remember this, you will though, Batman as a character, like when you look at Superman, yeah, they've changed the costume. They've given him some different power sets here and there. But Superman from his inception, I think it was in Action Comics #1, Superman from his inception has always kind of been Superman. They went through a little period where they had him in the black suit and they did this little, but really essentially Superman's been Superman. Batman has gone through two major metamorphoses as a character that we know. Once early in his career, but second, when the pivotal, I think people underestimate how important The Dark Knight Returns, that comic one shot, how important and influential that comic was. The Dark Knight Returns, what year did that come out, Rob? Like 86?
86.
When that came out in 86, it fundamentally changed the way we looked at Batman and saw and understand Batman. And you can see once that came out, the way Batman has been portrayed ever since fundamentally changed. I mean, he's still Batman, but it was different now. And so I think part of what has led to Batman's long endurance has been the fact that he has adapted and changed. I mean, it's been a while since that 86 transformation, granted, but That was a major fundamental shift, not just for the Batman character either, Rob, but kind of the whole comic industry kind of turned a little bit on its ear at that. What would you attribute to the longevity of a character like Batman to?
You know, I think that there's something about, first of all, he's a tragic character. You know, he lost his parents. He's haunted by the death of his parents that he was too young to prevent. There was nothing he could have done, but he saw it. He was there when it happened. And so that was burned into his brain. And we can all get behind that kind of tragedy. But on the other hand, he's kind of an irresistible character I think we all would love to kind of be. He's rich. You know, he's the debonair playboy. He's also a brilliant detective. He knows so much. And then he's got, you know, whether it's the Batmobile, whether it's the Batcave. And he leads this life where he can go exact justice when he wants to. The creature of the night, he's fighting against these very interesting rogues gallery of villains. He's got beautiful women at his side. He knows Superman. You know, I mean, there's nothing about Batman that isn't, I mean, sure, if you want to write some psychological monograph on Batman's problems, you probably could. But for the most part, especially for dudes, I mean, wish fulfillment. You're playboy, you're adventurer, you're detective, you're superhero, and you're the smartest guy in the world, pretty much. What's not to love? He might be the coolest of all superheroes.
And while doing all of that, they gave him no superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things about Batman
we could all
is
be Batman, John.
You can be, to quote Gordon at the end of the movie, we're all Batman. You can be Batman. There's something about, who was not a 14-year-old kid and thought, I could put on a mask and run around my neighborhood at evening, protecting the trick-or-treaters. Like, right? There was that also that relatability in a way. So they kind of overpowered him. He's the smartest, he's the richest, he's the handsomest, but at the same time, they did all that without literally giving him any powers that still made him somehow attainable, if that's one way to say it. So yeah, there's a lot of different things that go into making Batman. All right. Thanks a lot for that question, Chris. All right. Next up, Willow writes, when do you think the Academy will either confirm that the Oscars are still happening or that it's been canceled? Would it be costly for studios if they start awards campaigns only for the awards to be postponed for a year? It could be. Rob, I don't know about you, but I've talked to some friends, some people I know in the industry, and there really hasn't been any real Oscar campaign spin-ups. And usually by this time of the year, by mid to late November, you've got your campaign spin-ups already well underway. I don't think there's been any real money spent on any real campaigning so far. Rob, I got to believe that by New Year's, I believe by New Year's Day, the Academy will 100% put it in cement that, yes, the Oscars are happening. I believe it's April, they're saying this year. Yes, the Oscars are happening, or no, we're going to forego it. I personally think, not know, but I kind of think they're going to cancel the Oscars this year. And I 100% think they should cancel the Oscars this year, but I kind of think they will, but I'm thinking by January 1st, we will 100% know what they're going to do. Rob, when do you think we'll know?
I think that's a pretty good bet. I have to say that the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences has been building a very expensive, very lavish museum here in Los Angeles over the last year.
Yes, they have.
And they were going to tie in the opening, I believe they were going to tie in the opening of that museum with the Oscars. As a matter of fact, I watched a video the other day. Greg Nicotero from K&B restored the last remaining Bruce the Shark from Jaws that was used in the filming of Jaws.
Right.
And they brought it into the Academy Museum and they're mounting it from the ceiling. It's awesome. I believe that they are going to cancel the Oscars this year because I don't think anybody, even people who won or whatever, I just don't think that it's fair to have the Oscars this year. I mean, what Hollywood is and what it means, and a lot of the movies that we were going to get this year had to be postponed, or And I just think that if they had the Oscars, it would always be done. There would always be a dark shadow cast over the Oscars. And why do it if there is that? Why do it if there's any kind of, the Oscars should be a celebration of the filmmaking arts. And this was a year where so many people sacrificed so much. So many lives were lost. So many businesses shuttered. So many restaurants closed. So many people's lives were irrevocably changed. And to celebrate, like, here, let's celebrate Hollywood, with 250 Americans dead and 1 million people around the world dead, people still suffering from COVID. I don't think it's really appropriate to have an Oscars ceremony for 2020. I think 2020, if anything, Hollywood, like anyone else, it's time to focus. It's time to regroup. It's time to decide what's really important in our lives. And I think the Oscars, like anyone else, will honor all of us, everybody, the audience, the worldwide audience went through an ordeal. And, I don't know if they ever canceled the Oscars during World War II, but I don't know if the Oscars have ever been canceled in my mind, but I just think it's appropriate that they postpone it a year.
I agree. I mean, to be fair, again, to play devil's advocate against my own argument, I got to say the Emmys did a pretty good job with their virtual event. I mean, all things considered, they didn't do a bad job with that virtual event. But that's not what I want the Oscars to be. I want the Oscars. Yeah. But
the difference, John, is that for the Emmys, we've all been celebrating television. We've all been sequestered at home watching more of the art of television than ever before. I mean, I've watched more TV, more streaming, more shows in the last year than I think I have in the last 10. And I've been loving it. Dude, I watched for the first time Kim's Convenience yesterday.
Oh, thank goodness. I'm so glad you did.
And
Gay
Elizabeth
discount. Gay discount.
Binge watched all seasons of Schitt's Creek, which I had never seen. And I would jump in and watch episodes here and there. What a delightful show that was. And I think the Emmys, it was appropriate for the Emmys to air, to do it this year, because we got to see so much stuff.
Yep. It's a good point. That's a really good point. All right. And do get into Schitt's Creek. There's a reason it won every single Emmy this year. Like every single frickin' one. Schitt's Creek won. All right. Let's see. Ryan Lohner writes, I can't bring myself to get too excited about the Obi-Wan series news because, let's be honest, there's a 50-50 chance at most that it ever gets made. A sample conversation from Lucasfilm. How are we doing? Same as always. That bad, huh? A little Luke and Han conversation there. Listen, I feel like I'm absolutely confident the Obi-Wan series is getting made. I mean, I don't feel that way about everything Lucasfilm, but I feel like they went through a major upheaval. They got back on track, and it sounds like they're all ready to go. So I think the Obi-Wan series. Now, whether that whole Naomi Scott news is actually real, I doubt it is, but I mean, I'm perfectly good with it if it is, but I think it's going to happen. I think, Rob, you feel pretty good that Obi-Wan's going to happen at this point?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, remember Bob Iger said that the future of Star Wars for the time being was going to be on the small screen, was going to be streaming. And by the way, I'm more excited to see Ewan McGregor come back and play Obi-Wan than anything that they've announced for Star Wars since Disney's owned the franchise. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people very, very excited about it. Okay, let's move on here. Next up, why am I having problems bringing this up? Give me a second. Okay, here we go. Next up, we've got Jordan Matthews, who writes, Hey, John, I just finished watching your documentary. Thank you so much, man. Thought through the Patreon link, and I loved it. You did a great job and clearly put lots of work in. Also, I'm currently reading Star Wars Lost Stars, and it's great. Any other Star Wars novels you'd recommend? Seriously, Claudia Gray's Star Wars Lost Stars, even though it's a little bit of a YA novel in many ways, it is simply one, if you're a Star Wars fan, it's one of the most enjoyable reads. It's wonderful. So for those of you who don't know anything about Lost Stars, basically, it tells the story of the 3 Star Wars movies, but from the perspective of these 2 characters, this boy and girl, who start off very young around the New Hope era, and they each kind of go in different directions One kind of goes Imperial, one kind of goes Rebel. Throughout the progress of the ages, from New Hope to Empire Strikes Back and the events of Return of the Jedi, all playing in the background of their story, it is a phenomenal, different perspective look at the events of the Star Wars movies we know. It's wonderfully written. If you have not checked it out, check out Lost Stars. Let me bring this up, though. My favorite Star Wars novel. There it is. My favorite Star Wars novel, though, is Paul S. Kemp's Lords of the Sith. This is my favorite Star Wars novel. It's very different, whatever, but it's basically Vader and the Emperor in a survival story. It's a struggle for survival story on this planet that they crash land on, and they got to survive. It is complete, and you get to meet Harrison Dula's dad in it. But anyway, it is a wonderful, 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 wonderful book. It is my favorite Star Wars novel. So that's where we go. Rob, if you had to recommend to somebody who's looking for a good Star Wars novel to read, where would you go? Who would you recommend?
Well, I have to say that I would go back to the Timothy Zahn Thrawn trilogy.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Because what was interesting about that and from a historical perspective, I thought it was an interesting story, but it was the beginning of the reintroduction of Star Wars into the pop culture zeitgeist. Star Wars after Return of the Jedi, it kind of went away. There wasn't the toys sort of drifted off. And with the Dark Horse comic series Dark Empire and the Thrawn trilogy, it was sort of brought back. And I thought it was a methodical. You've got the Shadows of the Empire that came out afterwards, the mid-90s, the multimedia event leading up to the Star Wars special editions, leading up to the Phantom Menace. And I think from a historical perspective and a story perspective, the Thrawn trilogy is just really interesting. And yeah. I like Grand Admiral Thrawn. What can I say?
Now, of course, it's not canon anymore. The Heir to the Empire series is not canon, but yeah, that's what the series that got me into the books at all. All right, Jonathan Matthews writes, "Hey John, just finished watching your documentary. Thank you so much through the Patreon." Oh wait, that was the same one. Well, this is let's do it again. Let's just read the first part of his thing again, shall we? Through the Patreon link, and I loved it. Thank you so much for that, Jordan. All right, the Sock writes, 1 of 2. Well, I figured who Netflix caters to. It's my dad. 95% of content he watches is Playing with Fire, FREDI, etc. partially because it's just his sense of humor, but he's also pro-conservative and jumps ship on anything that good to say about women, LGBT, or speaks on issues regarding race. Keep in mind, he's black. I didn't understand half of what you were writing, Sock, but I'm glad your dad... This is the thing about Netflix, though. There's so much curated content on Netflix. It really is a service for everybody. You're going to find every kind of content on there. So that's one of the things about it for sure. Kara Black writes, John, do you take issue with Tom Brady's sportsmanship after he refused to shake Nick Foles' hand twice and then snubbed Jared Goff this past Monday? By the way, I saw this. Rob, I don't know if you heard about this.
Oh, I did.
Okay, can I just say, this is being made up by people who want to try to make Tom Brady look bad. If you look at the video, it is very clear. So Jeff Goff and Tom Brady at the end of the game, Rams beat the Buccaneers. And they're walking past each other. Goff and Brady's head is down because, he just blew the game. So he's extremely competitive. He's extremely bummed out. Goff extends his hand, and it looks like Brady was ignoring him. So Goff pulled his hand back. Okay, whatever, kept walking. And then you can see that at the last second, Brady realized he was reaching out his hand to him, and Brady started to reach out his hand, then realized Goff was no longer looking at him, so Brady just reached out and gave him a pat on his shoulder pad as he walked by. It was clear Brady was not trying to snub he was not trying to snub Goff. Anybody who watches the clip can clearly see that. That's made up controversy. It's just pure BS. So anyway, enough of that.
First of all, if you're going to snub Tom Brady, do it on the field. Smoke him. That's what the Rams did. But Brady's the GOAT, man. You know what's so funny? Brady should be a revered figure. Whether you look, I'm a Seahawks
Well, he is
fan.
amongst NFL players. All NFL, you watch the analysts and
course.
everything, they call him the GOAT. I mean, they all revere him.
He is the GOAT. Like, I'm a Seahawks fan. I hated the Patriots, but I hated the Patriots because they were so damn good. Bill Belichick, Tom Brady. I mean, this is a dynasty. This is something you're going to look back on in 100 years. Well, I won't, because I'll be long dead. But maybe genetic engineering will make you'll still be alive somewhere, John. But I mean, people are going to look back on the Patriots dynasty. Belichick and Tom Brady is one of the great moments in American sports. It's like Michael Jordan and basketball. You know, you don't make fun of Michael Jordan. You don't tell him he's unsportsmanlike. The fact that Brady's still playing for the Buccaneers, that he didn't just ride off into the sunset at the top of his game, more power to that guy.
Hey, look, there's a reason that for the first time ever, maybe in long memory, that the Patriots aren't going to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that, because Tom ain't there. And he's on a team, the Bucs, that are going to be in the playoffs. And that they've got a winning record and whatever. But Brady had a bad game the other night. Anyway, we got to keep moving here. Suthius writes, hey guys, Iron Mask, pros, costumes and set pieces look great. Cons, the movie, the entire effing movie, Jesus, I couldn't tell if entire movie was just dubbed or ADR was so bad that voice and lip movement didn't match. Dumb movie. I can't remember. What is Iron Mask? Because when I hear Iron Mask, I think Man in the Iron Mask with Leonardo DiCaprio.
I do too. Unless is it a kung fu? Is it a martial arts film?
I'm not sure.
Let me look.
I'll look it up too.
Iron Mask. Oh, it's Iron Mask 2020.
Well, there's an Iron Mask 2019. Oh, it's the Arnold Schwarzenegger Jackie Chan movie.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Listen, I was at Collider Movie Talk. That's how long I was at Collider Movie Talk when news of this movie first came out. And we talked about, I remember it was a topic on Movie Talk. I left Collider 3 years ago. I mean, that's a lot. I can't believe, like, I saw a trailer for it the other day. I'm like, are you kidding me? That hadn't come out yet? I mean, obviously, look, all you have to do is take a glimpse at that to realize that thing looks like a pure sack of garbage. I mean, no doubt. I have no interest in watching it. I'm not going to bother wasting my time watching it. But yeah, man, now I know you were talking about Suthius. Thanks for the input on that. All right, next up, we got Star Bucky Barnes, who writes, I like that name. To get ready for Mank, I'm watching all of Fincher's movies. The one I just watched was The Game with Michael Douglas and Sean Penn, by the way. It was so good in that. And I loved it, especially the ending. I found out that not a lot of people like that ending. What do you think of the movie / ending? I don't know, Rob. I know a lot of people who love the ending to The Game. I know a lot of people who love the ending to The Game. So, I mean, I really like the movie.
As a matter of fact, John, look at this.
Oh, no surprise.
No, check this out. So Arrow in the UK just put out this.
Look at that.
This Blu-ray set, and it comes with a hardcover book that actually my friend Scott Saslow designed, and it's a hardcover book. And I mean, this book it's amazing. It even has a CRS invitation in it. And I mean, this thing's incredible. So I'm a big fan of this movie, and if anybody is a big fan of this movie, this Arrow UK Blu-ray release, one of my favorite physical media releases of 2020.
All right, excellent. I'm not surprised you had that there on hand. Next up, oh no, it's Josiah writes, hello, John, and whoever else is there. Both Alita Battle Angel and ScarJo's Ghost in the Shell were better than they had any right being. I'll go so far as to say they were the best live-action anime out there. That's not a very high standard, but you might be right about that. Which one do you like better? Thanks. You know what, Rob? I rewatched Ghost in the Shell not long ago, and despite its spectacular failure, it's not that bad.
No, it's not.
I mean, I actually didn't think it was all that bad. I think I prefer Alita Battle Angel. Which also had its problems, but I had a fun time with Alita Battle Angel when it was all said and done. Some of the narrative is all over the place, but whatever. I enjoyed the movie. And, but I think they're both, I'd watch both of them again. I mean, I like them both. I'll give the slight edge to Alita Battle Angel. What about you?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Look, I was a fan of the anime of both of those, but I have to say, Alita Battle Angel is there's a lot going on in that movie that I really admire, and it's a collaboration between Cameron and Robert Rodriguez. I think that Alita Battle Angel, the problem, if it has any problems, it's that a lot of the material in it is familiar from other things because Alita Battle Angel is older, and it took so long for it to come to the screen that you had seen some of the tropes and some of the concepts in other films. But other than that, I think it's really imaginative. I really like the performances. I think visually it's spectacular, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Next up, we've got Superman Steve, who writes, "Hey, John, is there any way at all that you can please put your documentary on YouTube so we can pay to watch it there also, like they with other movies? I can't express how excited I am to watch it." Here's the thing, Superman Steve, a little bit of behind the curtain stuff. I was presented with the opportunity to put the movie on Google Play. The problem was there were things I was going to have to do in order to be able to make that happen that was literally going to cost me thousands of dollars in order to do it. And if I got it up on Google Play, then it would be available on YouTube for purchase because they're all connected, right? And not only that, but they were going to keep a healthy chunk of the revenue. they were going to keep a healthy chunk of the revenue, as YouTube does. YouTube keeps a very healthy chunk of the revenue that YouTube generates. And so at the end of the day, Rob, if you remember, I gave you a call when I was really contemplating this about because I was given the opportunity to put it in certain places, but there was going to be how much of a percentage of the revenue were certain places going to keep, and how much would it cost me to do the things I need to do to make it eligible to go up, and blah, blah, blah. But, I decided, you know what? It's available. I mean, if people want to watch it anywhere, they can watch it. Movie Trailers, A Love Story is available worldwide. Anybody can access this at vimeo.com/on-demand/movie trailers. And for those of you, of course, in the UK or the US, it is there available on Amazon. So you can get it. So it's available to everybody. My one concern is anybody who wants to watch this going to be able to watch this? And we were able to put it in the places that guaranteed that anybody who wants to watch this is going to be able to watch it. And so I would have liked to have had it on the Google Play Store, and I was certainly given the opportunity, but the financial price for me to get it on there was just a little too high. And so I decided. Now look, if Vimeo On Demand was only available in half the countries and Google Play was available everywhere, then I would consider that and to make it pay extra, but I got to at least break even on this movie. And so that's why Superman Steve, I mean, who knows, in the new year, if the movie has really great success, maybe I look at expanding, and maybe I do let it go to iTunes, and maybe I do let it go onto Google Play Store, but that's where we're at right now. But thanks for asking, man. That's a good question. All right. Alan Horn writes, I love that username. Have you seen the teaser for the live action Clifford the Big Red Dog movie? Good God. Hey, listen, Rob, I saw the headline come across. I got the email from the publicist yesterday. I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't even bother clicking on it. So I haven't seen it yet. I probably will watch it. But knowing that we were talking today specifically about getting people enthusiastic about making their own movies and talking about mine as well, I knew there was no point. So I'll watch it at some point, but I didn't feel any desire to watch it. Did you see it by any chance?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, no offense to anybody who loves that or the filmmakers, but really not at the top of my list of things I need to watch.
Totally
I just
agree.
got my Ingmar Bergman box set from the Criterion sale at Barnes and Noble, so I think I'm going to be digging into Cries and Whispers and
so
Wild
that's next up for you. All right, next up here, we got an anonymous viewer who writes, "Hey, John, are you excited for the live action Clifford movie?" No, I'd be lying. Hey, but you know what? Let me say this. If you had asked me the day before the trailer for Freaky came out with Vince Vaughn,
right?
If I was excited about Freaky, reading the synopsis, no. but then I saw the trailer and now I really want to watch it. Maybe I'll have that same experience when I see the trailer for Clifford. I doubt it, but maybe I will. Maybe I will, but not right now, Anonymous. All right, HV3 writes, hey, John, I'm in the middle of reading Ready Player 2, and there is a part in the book that reminds me of your show. It's about a futuristic YouTuber. I thought you might enjoy the quote. Let's see if you've got a quote. Hold on a second. What is the quote? Do you pick it up? There we go. H3 writes, some people define themselves by rallying against all of the things they hate, while explaining why everyone else should hate it too. But not me. I prefer to lead with my love, to define myself through the joyous yawns of admiration instead of cynical declarations of disdain. Dude, I can't help but wonder if he listened to the talk I gave at Comic-Con about, because Rob, one of the things I always talk about whenever I'm doing conventions or doing online panels, whatever, and people are asking about YouTube, one of the things that I always tell people is whatever you're doing, whether you're blogging, podcasting, YouTubing, whatever, make sure, like, there's always going to be things you don't like, and you should talk about that, but make sure that you are defined by what it is you love, not defined by what it is you hate. And I remember I had a friend of ours suggest to me this one YouTuber to come and be a panelist on one of the panels I was running. And I wasn't really familiar with this one particular YouTuber. And I just went to their YouTube page. And they had a lot of followers, but I went to their YouTube page. And, you got like 30 or 40 videos up there on the YouTube page. And I kid you not, every single video was why I hate this, why I hate that, why this sucks, why that sucks, why this is an abomination. Whether it was complaining about Doctor Who or complaining about Star Wars or complaining about Game of Thrones, literally every single video out of the 40 that were on the front page was hate, hate, hate. Every single one. Why this sucks, why that sucks, why I hate this, why I hate that. And I'm like, no, I don't. I mean, God bless that person and what they're doing with their own YouTube career. That's their thing. But like, to me, it's like, no, I'm trying to encourage people, when you hate something, say why something is ridiculous and why you hate it. But generally speaking, be known for what it is you love, not what it is you hate. And I think that's important. So it sounds like, I read that quote, it's like, that sounds like he took it from one of our talks. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree. I mean, one of the things that I didn't realize when I started my own YouTube channel was how people would respond to what they call my positivity. And look, while I do get not very positive about the current state of modern Star Trek, even that's become kind of a joke and people think it's kind of funny. But I think you do want to engage people by talking about what you love. Because at the end of the day, these shows should be fun to watch for people. They should put a smile on your face. They should leave you feeling like they want to come back and see you again. And like some people are, I just prefer, John, I think happiness is actually a choice. You have to choose to be happy. Nothing's going to make you happy. And maybe things fleetingly, like the smile of a baby or, a lick of a dog to your face or something will make you happy. But to be truly happy, you have to decide to be. And I feel that's true of YouTube. You have to decide what you want to do. Do you want to share joy or not? And I think the audience that you develop, if you bring them pleasure and happiness and joy, is much more loyal than an audience that you bring when you're peddling in anger.
I agree. All right. Next up, we got Tanu writes. Where are we at? Oh, yeah. No question. Just thankful for your show. Oh, thanks so much, man. Tanu tipped $50 to the channel. Thank you, Tanu, for supporting the channel on that level, man. We really appreciate that, dude. Was an avid viewer for a few years, but got busy and unable to keep up. Recently found the podcast and have been running through those while working. So thanks for all the content and things you do for movie fans. Oh, dude, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. And It's always nice when somebody just wants to send in something just to say something positive. And for those of you who don't realize, we do have an audio for those of you who commute or you're at work, we do have an audio only version of the show up on all the major podcast feeds. Just search for the John Campea Show podcast. You should be able to find it. Every show goes up there. And every week we put up one or two open mic, which are now open mic is now podcast exclusive. It's only on the podcast channel. And so you can get those there as well. So Tanu, thank you so much for being with us and thanks for supporting the channel, man. We really appreciate that. Next up, Kevin Lewis writes, oh my gosh, in time, we're already past 11:30, Rob. We'll let you go after this one.
Okay.
Hey, JC, I think you might be giving up on the longevity of movie theaters too easily. I hope you're right. I really do. There's still going to be a demand for the communal experience of going to the movies. And if AMC and Regal go under, we'll see Guardians of the Galaxy 3 at an Amazon or Apple theater near you. I hope so. And Rob, this has been and will continue to be a very big topic of conversation for the coming months. Look, I gave my record player analogy. Just like the era of the record is over and gone, there are still vinyl that comes out and there are still record players. I believe there will be movie theaters there, but the industry as we have known it for 100 years is probably disappearing because it needs to have, because Rob, the movie theater industry is such a razor thin business, their profit margins are razor thin. There's a very fine line between a profitable month and a money loss month.
Yeah.
They need a critical mass of audience coming to the theaters in order to make the theatrical system work.
Yeah.
When you do a lot of things that will remove a significant chunk of that critical mass, it makes the model unsustainable. So that's why I'm pessimistic. But I keep my fingers crossed. I burn a candle at night for it. I'm hoping somehow, some way, the true, real movie fan experience of the theatrical experience finds a way to survive. I will keep my fingers crossed for it. I will continue to pray for it. I will do all that kind of stuff, but I am pessimistic, Rob.
I'm pessimistic too. You know, I really am. And I'm hoping that we're wrong. I mean, people like movie theaters and people like going to movie theaters, but there is an economic reality. It's not just that movie theaters have to come back. There is a huge amount of money that is now owed to investors, and it's a big deal. And there's more and more money being lost every day. And until we have a vaccine, and until movie theaters can not just work at half capacity but full capacity, they're going to be on life support. So We'll see.
All right, Rob, thanks for joining me here today, dude, and talking about making movies as fans and how people can make their own content and stuff like that, and celebrating the launch of Movie Trailers A Love Story. But Rob, in the meantime, where can people follow you and your adventures online?
You can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM. Find me on Instagram at RM Burnett or Robert Meyer Burnett. And you can also find me on my YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, and my show, Robservations, a show about something. And remember, the first annual Intergalactic Imagination Connoisseurs Film Festival is going on now. You can see what people have been doing over the last 2 months, what kind of films that they've been making. It's pretty inspiring. So if you like Movie Trailers, A Love Story, and I encourage everyone to get it because it's really fun. And it will put a smile on your face over this holiday weekend. Check out the film festival and all the great talented filmmakers from all over the world. And on that note, I will say, happy Thanksgiving to everyone, wherever you are in the world. Keep your family close and enjoy one another's company.
All right, dude. Thanks a lot, man. And I will talk to you soon. Have a good one.
Man.
All right. That was the great Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett, everybody. But we've got a few minutes left here and only a few more questions to go. So let's get through all the remaining questions. GQ writes, I just watched Birds of Prey. Oh my God, what an awful, boring movie. And literally it was rated R just for the million F words they said in the movie for no reason. That's the thing. Birds of Prey and the Fabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn is the first DCEU movie that I did not like. I even like Suicide Squad. Birds of Prey was the first one that I didn't like. It's a bad movie. And I love Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, but the movie didn't work. And you're right. The first thing I thought coming out of it was that movie was an easy PG-13. You could just tell they purposefully threw in a bunch of F-bombs that didn't need to be there purposely so they could make it rated R and say, ooh, look, kiddies, we've got an R-rated comic book movie. Ooh, aren't we edgy? Like, if your movie is naturally that way, great. But you could just tell that movie is not naturally an R-rated movie. It's very naturally a PG-13 movie. And then they did things to purposely make it rated R to say, ooh, look, everybody, oh, an R-rated Harley Quinn movie. Aren't we edgy? You know, it came across as desperate and bad, and the movie just didn't work. But a lot of people like it. If you did, awesome. I'm not trying to yuck on your yum, but for me, it's the first one I didn't like. All right, next up. Let's see. Raymond Verrata writes, I'm sure you've heard of cellist Samara Ginsburg over the 80s and 90s TV themes on her YouTube channel. What can't this woman do? Today she came out with a 10 cello rendition of Battle of the Planets. Watch here. I actually had somebody send me a link of that. So there's this one, like the girl with the long dark hair, right? Who plays cello, and she's got 9 of her on the screen at once playing the different parts of Battle of the Planets, also known as Space Battleship Yamato, Star Blazers. Oh no, Battle of the Planets. Sorry, Battle of the Planets, that's G-Force. But she also does, I heard her do a Star Blazers one before too. But yeah, G-Force, Mark, Jason, Tiny, Keop, Princess, G-Force. Me and my friends used to run around our neighborhood with bed sheets tied as capes playing G-Force. We always did. Thanks for that, Raymond. All right. Diego Armando Maradona writes, RIP to the only player in the same class as Pele, and will always remember the goal versus... Did Maradona die? And the goal versus England in 86, and I don't think I've ever screamed at the TV as hard as when he scored in the 94 World Cup. Gracias dos por el fútbol por Maradona. Wait a second. Sorry here. Hold a second. Let me just go over to ESPN. I had not heard this before the show started. Diego Maradona dies at 60. Wow, man. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not an avid follower of soccer. I'm not. But whether you're a follower of soccer or not, the two names well, there's 3 names you know Pele, Beckham, Maradona. I did not know he passed away. That's... oh man, that's horrible to hear. He was also a great ambassador for the sport. Like, he was always very, very, and again, I'm not even a soccer fan. I mean, that's terrible to hear. Thanks for sharing it, man. That's awful to hear. 2020 strikes again, ladies and gentlemen. Hitchcock is the GOAT writes, for those of us who don't have Amazon and aren't familiar with Vimeo, when will your documentary be available on platforms such as Vudu? I'm not putting it on Vudu, iTunes, etc., so we can view and support your hard work either by rental, purchase, or both. Listen, it doesn't matter if you're not familiar with Vimeo. All you got to do is literally all you have to do. And you don't have to have Amazon. You can still go on Amazon just like anything else. If you buy anything on Amazon, you can go on Amazon, search for movie trailers, love story, and you'll find it there. And you don't have to be a Prime member to be able to rent it at all. It's right there. And you don't have to be familiar with Vimeo. All you got to do, Vimeo is a big platform, by the way, but all you got to do is just go to that URL, vimeo.com/on-demand/movie trailers, and it's there and it's available, and you don't have to have some kind of membership to Vimeo. It's all there. It's available to everybody. So again, it was financial considerations for me why not to put it on things like Vudu and iTunes. It was just going to be a very expensive proposition for me to put things on there, and I just decided against it. They opened the doors for me to do it. That it was available for me to do it, but the financial things just didn't add up for me. And so I did not do that. But yes, it doesn't matter. You don't have to be a member of Amazon. You don't have to be a member of Vimeo. There's no paid membership for that. You can just go to that URL, click on rent or buy, and it will be there for you. It is available absolutely to everybody. Again, it's just the financial, I don't know that I would have been able to even break even on this movie had I gone with those other platforms. That's just the reality of it. Next up, Greg Scott Bailey writes, John, I just wanted to add to the congratulations to you and your team working on movie trailers, A Love Story, and bought it within seconds of you announcing it today. I was on one of the screenings you held and have been anxious for it ever since. Bravo, sir. Oh, thanks for that, Greg. For those of you who don't know what Greg's talking about, maybe a month or two ago, I can't remember exactly, I did a private exclusive screening with 25 Patreon supporters. We put out the call. The first 25 people of our Patreon supporters wrote in, and we did a live virtual screening of movie trailers, A Love Story. It was a great night. I had so much fun that night with our Patreon supporters. So thank you for that, Greg. I really appreciate it, man. All right. Stubble McShave writes, Over under 70%. San Diego Comic-Con will happen in place at San Diego during the summer of 2021. I'm not going to say 100%, but I do believe it's over 70. Like if they actually start distributing vaccinations before the end of the year, which they're saying they're going to be able to do, as I heard, they're thinking they could have upwards of 20 million doses ready to go and starting to be distributed in December. If that holds, then 6 months later, I think we'll be in pretty good shape by July. So we're in November, right? December, January, February, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. That's 8 months away. So I will, not 100%, but I'll take the over 70 on that, Stubble. Maybe I'm just being overly optimistic, but really I think if they can actually get 20 million doses out before the end of the year and then continue a pace like that, I think we should be in pretty good shape. But again, maybe I'm being overly optimistic. Remember, I'm the same guy that back in March, I thought by this past July, we would have already had it behind us. And look what happened. All right. Iran from the UK writes, hello, John and RMB or RBM, who's not here now. While I'm not into making a video project, I am more interested in script writing. Very cool. Any tips on what should I do? I don't know how to move forward as I've got a degree in law with not TV industry experience. Thanks for providing escapism. Well, thanks for that, Iran. Listen, honestly, this is what I tell everybody to do. When you are trying to write, and this is true of just about everything in life, but this kind of really centers around the process of writing. When you don't know what to write, just write. Even if you're writing gibberish, just write. That's the best advice I ever got, and it's absolutely true. When you don't even know what to write, write anyway. Even if you're writing gibberish. Like you don't know what Harold, the fireman hamster, does right now. Then just start writing gibberish. Start writing. Okay, hey, listen. Harold, the firefighter hamster, woke up this morning and had breakfast. He decided to have a big, delicious grape for breakfast. Then he decided to go to the movies that day. Just write anything. Just write because. You always hear me say this, but it's absolutely true in writing. It's absolutely true in life. You cannot steer a parked car. If you want to be able to steer a car, the car's got to be moving. So sometimes in your life, instead of just sitting on your ass and thinking about all the things you're going to do, get up and start doing something. And then as you're moving, the inspiration will come, the clarity will come, the aha moments will come. But a lot of times they won't come in your life, regardless of what it is you're facing, until you get off your ass and start to move. Start to move. Because it's once you're moving that then you can steer the car, right? And that's true with writing as well. So I believe even if you're stuck on something, just start writing gibberish and it'll start to come to you. So my best advice I give to anybody trying to write anything is just write. Sit down at your laptop, and if it has to be gibberish for 5 weeks that you're writing, then write the gibberish. But just keep moving. And I think that's the best advice I ever heard about it, Aran. So I hope that works for you, my friend. All right, next up, and the final question of the day today, folks, comes to us from Richard Okoturo, who writes, hey, John and Rob, happy Thanksgiving, and happy Thanksgiving to you, Richard. I'm just curious, is the next Matrix movie officially taking place after the third installment? If so, what do you think will happen? Have you heard anything about what the story will be? No, I really haven't heard anything. I think it stands to reason that it definitely takes place after the events of the last Matrix movie, although it is conceivable considering the fact that the architect says this has happened so many times before. Maybe it's one of those times, but I have a feeling it is a sequel to that. What happens after the events of the last Matrix? But Neo died. I know, but that doesn't matter. So I think it's definitely that, but I haven't really, it's been very, very thin on actual plot details. I've seen some rumors and whatever, but I don't buy any of them. So not a lot of news there, but I think it's pretty safe to say, Richard, that yeah, whatever is going to happen in the new Matrix, which I'm honestly not all that excited about, but whatever is going to happen in the new Matrix will probably be subsequent to the events that happened in Matrix 3. At least That's my guess. All right, I said that was the last one, but Russell Amador got in one more here. Hey, John, what are your thoughts on the comedy Dirty Grandpa with Zac Efron and Robert De Niro? It's terrible. I thought that movie was silly, and congrats on the doc. Can't wait to check it out over the break. Happy Thanksgiving to you and the fan community. Well, thank you so much for that, Russell. Yeah, I didn't like it, which is too bad because I am a big fan of Robert De Niro and I'm a big fan of Zac Efron. And I didn't think the concept of the movie sounded all that interesting. But again, I think Zac Efron is a terrific actor. And Robert De Niro is clearly one of the legends. And I thought they will be able to come up with a really great chemistry. And their chemistry wasn't bad. It's just the material for me didn't work nearly as well. So unfortunately, even though I was really looking forward to it because of who's involved and I'm such a big fan of them both, I was not able to enjoy it all that much. All right, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Kind of a different episode of the John Campea Show, but thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us. And once again, want to remind you guys, we made the announcement earlier. Movie Trailers: A Love Story is available now worldwide, including in the US and the UK. You can go and get it at video.com/on-demand/movie trailers. And if you're in the US or the UK and you'd like to watch it on Amazon, just go to Amazon and search for Movie Trailers: A Love Story. They are available to rent or purchase on either of those platforms. And a special thank you to all of you guys who already did. A thank you to all the Patreon supporters. We gave you guys early access. Thank you for all you guys who went and got it. And the comments you guys have been sending has been great. And thank you so much for that. Guys, have a great Thanksgiving. I hope you guys have a wonderful day ahead of you. Thank you all for being here. And guys, please remember, do the 4 main things, especially with Thanksgiving. Please don't have huge gatherings. The 4 main things: stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and please take care of the people around you. That'll do it for me today, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.